Right, what's going on, people? Today I'm going to run through some common gym mistakes I see from people on pretty much a day-to-day basis, and this isn't just from beginners but from intermediates and some advanced lifters too. So without further ado, let's get into mistake number one. So number one, overcomplicating things. You really don't need to do that, especially if you're newer to training. When you're new to training, you can pretty much respond to anything you do, so you don't need to be researching the next best routine, the next best diet. All you need to pretty much do is go into the gym, stimulate some muscle growth from a simple basic training program, and then prioritize your recovery from eating enough foods, enough protein, sleep. Repeat that for the first 2 years and you're going to make some pretty decent linear progression. The next mistake pretty much applies to everybody. Now, this is basically just chasing numbers in the gym / ego lifting, and my best advice I could give somebody about this is, if you're in the gym lifting X amount of load and that weight you're lifting in the gym doesn't reflect your physique, then something isn't adding up. If you are ego lifting as well, not only are you going to look like a twat in the gym, you know, doing your lat pull downs, looking like you're about to do a backflip, but say you go out talking to your friends, work colleagues, however it may be, and you're talking about, say, that you can lift X amount of weight. If you don't look like you can lift that amount of weight, you're going to look like a bit of a twat outside the gym as well. And that's without mentioning the risk of injury. So to be fair, when you add things up, it's really not worth it. Next mistake is for beginners, and that's saying, I'm going to start on X date. If you're saying to someone you're going to start in a week's time, 2 weeks time, to me, you've literally already failed before you've started. And that's because, like, life is always going to be busy. If you're looking to start at the perfect time, there isn't one. Next mistake is pretty much from everyone, and that is setting unrealistic expectations. You can't expect to achieve your dream physique in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 months, a year, whatever. You've got to give it time, especially when you're learning. Like, we can never just start something and be good at it. That's the same for the gym. Like, as well with your training, don't expect to progress every single session. I think that's a common one. That's something that I struggled with as well. Like, with my early years of training, is that I expected to try and progress every session. And in reality, that's not possible. Next one is not asking for help. So if you're somebody that doesn't research training, research nutrition, research recovery, and you just go into the gym and wing it, you're setting yourself up for failure. So if you're not going to ask for help with a coach, PT, whoever it is, at least do your research. Like, if you're going to learn to drive, you'll get a driving instructor. If you're going to learn, I don't know, dancing, you get a dance teacher. Same for training. Like, if you don't know what you're doing, research or seek help. The next mistake is extremely common and extremely stupid as well, and that's simply just being hydrated. Like, hydration is probably the most important variable you can nail. Like, the amount of conversations I've had with people asking for advice with stuff, and they know they're not well hydrated, and they're asking what else they can do. Like, I literally say to them, make sure you're hydrated before you worry about anything else in terms of exercise selection, your training program, whatever. Just make sure you're hydrated before you train, because if you're not, you are leaving so many gains on the table. The next one, I'd say this is a mistake by beginners, intermediates, and advanced lifters, and that's simply not training hard enough. And what I mean by that is not just going into the gym doing 1 rep maxes or going into failure every set, but making sure you're training accurately with sufficient intensity. Like, anyone can go in the gym and train like an absolute madman, doing like 200 sets, training to failure, but they're not going through a full range of motion, stimulating the muscle properly. Anyone can do that, but what's hard is training with accuracy, you know, stimulating the muscle, feeling the muscle work, and going until you can't go anymore. That is proper training, and that's what you need to do. The next mistake, which I think many of us are guilty of, is neglecting sleep. Like, honestly, the two most important variables for me is 1, hydration, and 2, sleep. If you go from having like 4 or 5 hours of sleep tonight, then having like 7 to 9 hours of sleep, I'm telling you now, you're gonna feel like you're on drugs. It makes the biggest difference to recovery. Research suggests around 7 to 9 hours. Some people might be able to get away with a little bit less. That's not an excuse to kind of have less, but 7 to 9 is a good kind of ballpark to go by. The 10th and final mistake, I'd say, is people trying to be perfect. At the end of the day, I'd say that 99% of people probably watching this aren't a full-time bodybuilder, so you don't need to have the lifestyle of one. So don't try and execute every single thing to a T, because it's going to drive you absolutely mad and you're not going to be able to sustain it. Just think about doing the majority of things right. You're like hitting your protein targets, hitting the right amount of calories for you, training hard with good intensity, progressively overloading, getting decent sleep, sleep, staying hydrated. You do all these things, you know, getting your micronutrients in your diet. If you do these things right, you don't need to worry about whether you're doing an incline dumbbell press or an incline barbell press. You don't need to overthink the finer details, just get the basics right. So there you go. Obviously, there's more than just 10 mistakes people are making in the gym, but I think these 10 are probably the most common. So let me know in the comments if you've made any of these mistakes before. Like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video.